This week, a powerful storm swept across much of Alaska, bringing hurricane-force winds, coastal waves, and a dramatic glacier collapsed a flooded low-lying area in the state capital. Emergency service working throughout the night and clear roads, restore power, and reinforce riverbanks with the community's assessment the damage. In January, a long-awaited breakup of the Mediterranean glacier caused meltwater to flow into the Mid-Hill River, leading to record-high water levels that flooded yards and damaged small bridges. Authorities announced that a hospitably constructed system of temporary barriers protected hundreds of homes from much worse damage, and the residents are urged to follow evacuation instructions to weather warning. For the west and across south-central Alaska, storms wind knocked down trees, powered lines, and forces of cancellation and flights and ferries. In Anchorage, a surrounding area's crew responded to dozens of wind-related incidents, and thousands of people were briefly left without power, and key transportation links were disrupted. Official warning that unusually warm in interaction with the storm had intensified its severity. Coastal communities, many of which are already vulnerable due to performance of melting and shoreline erosion, reported isolated incidents of severe flooding and wave damage. Scientists and local leaders pointed to changing ocean temperature and shifting seasonal patterns and factors that could make storms in Alaska more volatile and difficult to predict. Forecasters have collapsed a continent vigilant and affect such as rising river levels and debris to highway risk even after the winds had died down. The priority now is recovery, cleaning highways, assessing structure damage, and restoring service. Officials saying a long-term resilient strong river definites updated evacuation plans and investments in a warning system will be critical to communities facing a future with extreme storm may occur more frequently. This week, Alaska has been hit by violent storm and damaged coastline, knocked down trees and caused sudden waves and a midwave from glaciers and low-lying area. From Juneau to Anchorage, emergency service rushed to clear highways, restore power, and reinforce road banks, while the residents assessment damage, searching for missing pets and the salvage family heirlooms. In the capital, a dramatic glacier breaking down in Mid-Hill catchment area, causing a rapid flood wave in overflowing local protective structures to cause the record water level in a Mid-Hill rivers. Residents of area near the riverbanks reported flooded yards and badly damaged small bridges. Quick action to authority and volunteers helped prevent more casualties. Across south-central Alaska, hurricane-force winds uprooted centrally old poor streets and broke power lines, leaving thousands of people without power for several hours. Airports and ferries were shut down to runways and nearly were cleared to debris. Communities that depended to maritime transportation immediately felt in the impact. Officials said unusually warm air in a period atmosphere intensified system caused strong winds and more intense coastal waves than predicted. melt and coastal erosion, seafloor additions, damage from the strong waves. Scientists point to rising ocean's temperature and changing seasonal patterns to contributing factors to warn that Alaska infrastructure built for the definite climate is under increasing strain. Local leaders have called to renewed investment in river protection, improving early warning system to approach evacuation routes. As wind speeds decrease, their priority shifted to recovery, cleaning debris in transit bridges and restore power. For many residents, the storm was a stark reminder that climate change and the state exacerbating extreme weather events, and the communities must adapt quickly to protect the life, livelihood, and fragile landscape to which they depend. This week, Alaska was hit by a rare violent wind and broad hurricane-force winds, heavy rain, and dramatic gales breakup resulting in billions of dollars of meltwater rising down the rivers in the state capital, Juneau. The system caused significant damage from the inside passage of the south-central communities, forcing people to evacuate, halting ferry service, and leaving thousands without power. In Juneau, a sudden release of water from Suicide Basin above the Mid-Col Glacier caused the record rise in the river level significantly exceeded previous night. City officials, with the support of federal agencies, installed the miles of temporary barriers, including Hesky-type earthworks and sand walls, but the officials said prevented much more damage in the hundreds of priority road river banks, and the small bridge were ordered to damaged by debris. Residents were temporarily evacuated, with the emergency service monitoring the rapidly changing water levels. Elsewhere, hurricane-force wind uprooted trees, tore off roofs, and damaged power lines in the Anchorage and the neighboring areas. Airports reported diversions and cancellation on the runways were lifted in debris. First service where sea levels rose and ports were damaged. Utility crews rushed to restore power, and the search and rescue teams cleared blocked highways. Scientists and local leaders said the event highlighted changing climate dramatic in Alaska. Rising air and ocean temperature, earlier southward and permafrost through the cloud intensified storm, increasing a runoff into Glacier Basin and avoiding coastal deafness, making floods and wind disaster more frequent and destructive. Experts are calling the long-term investments, permanent protection of rivers, approved evacuation routes, and improving monitoring to global lakes. When the wind died down, in the urgent task was recovery, pumping water in the flooded yards, repairing power lines, installing bridges, and easing the damage in small businesses that had separated the loss of tourists and transportation. For many communities, the southern storm was a stark reminder of the climate change in Alaska is already attempting the rhythm of life, and that more powerful and long-term resilience measures will be needed to protect homes, infrastructure, and livelihood. This week, the United States is experiencing unstoppable weather, from the intensified Atlantic hurricane through to rain coastal waves to intense connected outbreak to inland areas and unusual late summer atmospheric river poisoned to flood in the Pacific Ocean coast. The variety of hazards, hurricane-force winds to the sea, torrential winds, inland flash floods, and destructive winds gas is testing the resilience of emergency service and highlighting now the definite parts of the country must prepare to the very definite threat at the same time. In the Atlantic, tropical storm Irene was quickly developed into LEM track system and the forecast to become first hurricane on the season this weekend in the same moves west-north across the one way. Forecasts say it could rapidly intensify, complicating planning for the island communities to the coastal area along the West Atlantic and Bermuda when the center does not reach in the US coast. Broad waves and a threat to reach current could cause dangerous surf to the coastal flooding in some areas on the east coast. Offshore and meteorological services are urged residents to sail to closely monitor updates. At the same time, tropical turbulence in the West Gulf of Mexico and the area high humidity rose to risk of flooding along the Texas coast and the neighboring region. Local forecasts indicate heavy concentrated rainfall. It could cause the flash flooding in low-lying area and urban area. Even the system never reached a full tropical cyclone threat and reminded that flooding not one in the most common cause of death during the tropical threat in U.S. coastal plains in the southern Texas speeded up to preparation and monitoring the timing of the possibility landslide. Inland, severe storm brought destructive storm and live winds, lightened to localized flash flood to parts of the Midwest and Northeast. Which episode to fallen trees, down power lines and temporarily impossible highway. In Connecticut, intensified evening storms dumped several inches of rain in short period of time, caused localized flooding in hundreds of brief power outage with the utility quickly restored. Emergency officials emphasizing the importance to hitting rapidly issue warning about the flash flood and severe thunderstorm, especially in the summer when storms intensify quickly. In the West Meteorological are monitoring an unusual August atmospheric river heading toward the Seattle area that could bring heavy rain in the fire-affected area to mountain terrain. For firefighters, that rain double-edged sword, it can help extinguish active fires, but also increasing the risk dangerous runoffs, mudslides, and rapid rise in water level in small streams. Authorities have urged caution to flood-prone cyclone and reminded residents living near the affected areas to be alert to changing conditions. Climatologists say this season activity in the parts and broad patterns, a rising sea surface temperature and unusual atmospheric conditions to increasing to falling storms and may be changing to nature of precipitation, making heavy downpour more common and increasing the danger to the coastal area. The NOAA seasonal forecast continue to predict increasing tropical activity this year, reminding communities to need the rainfall evacuation plans, secure board and unsure outdoor items to prepare emergency kits. Investments in resilience infrastructure from improving urban drainage to the rivers coastal definitions are becoming to operational priority as emergency services seek to balance immediate response to long-term adaptation. A powerful Atlantic storm that formed near the Cape Verde Island in a weak tropical storm Irene is rapidly changing for the forecast to become the first hurricane in 2025 season, moving northwest toward the West Atlantic. Models show the system could reach major hurricane range over the weekend, causing concert to Bahamas, Bermuda, and other parts of U.S. East Coast in the coming week. Forecast emphasizing to uncertainty about the exact routes, but most forecasts indicate that the storm will pass in north of Caribbean, creating a wide cone of possible approaches that could cause large waves, dangerous currents to coastal life flooding in southwestern mid-island coast without making landfall. Coastal communities are already being advised and monitor updates to prepare the dangerous waves and beach erosions. Meteorological that rapidly intensification is possible to air entire warning waters and relatively favorable wind conditions with the heat cause of tropical storm turn into much more destructive hurricane in a matter of days. This complicates the task of emergency service will be must hit the worst case scenarios while avoiding false alarms. Representation from the NOAA and Regional Meteorological Service note the common amid forecast to be above average season in the Atlantic in 2025 caused the high sea surface temperatures and climate conditions conduction of the storm formations. These conditions make villages and advanced preparation particularly impact of the year. Residents in low-lying coastal area should check evacuation routes to secure loose outdoor items as the precautions. A powerful storm system has battered the state of Texas and led to days of torrential rain, destructive winds and flash floods that have left a trail of destruction across both urban central of rural communities. At least 20 people have died, hundreds have been injured, and thousands displaced of water raced rapidly across more than 14 countries. In Houston, intense rainfall overwhelmed drainage system. Buffalo, Bayonne, and White Oak, Beyond's bridge the banks, flooding highways, submerged vehicles and turned residential streets into rivers. Officials confirmed over 1,000 water rescue with emergency shelters went quickly to floodwaters in waiting homes. In San Antonio and Austin, with exceeded 16 million hours, down tourism, power lines, flash flooding caused close, and businesses, while entire neighborhoods lost access to clean water. Basin Country issue evacuation order for low-lying area as the river rose historic levels. Governor Greg Abbott issued a disaster declaration to deploy the Texas National Guard and State Emergency Service. Texas is a recent, but the storm was pushed many communities to the brink, and he started. Brisbane, Green Brody, and a White Oak Brew overflowing stimulation, a rate of devastation scenario. Entire neighborhoods were submerged. Emergency crews performers of 1,400 rescue using E-boats to helicopters to reach extended residents, many trapped off rooftops in the attic spaces. San Antonio and Austin facing flash floods that swept through the major roadway and overwhelming storm drains. In the county, mobile homes were washed away. Downtown Austin was so powerful through a building evacuation and wind gusts exceeded 17 million hours. Schools, hospital, and drainage system across the region helped operations. Governor Greg Abbott activated the Texas Devastation of Emergency Management, deployed the National Guard troops, and declared a statewide disaster. This is not an isolated weather event and a climate emergency unfolding in real time, he said during the press conference. The National Weather Service issued level 4 flood warning of much of southwestern central Texas, warning the continued danger due to standing soil, rising rivers, and further rainfall expected for the lightning storm bands. Climate scientists for the Rice University and University of Texas confirmed the record Gulf temperature helped of the storm's intensity. Meteorologist Dr. Kaizen Lutz said, "We're seeing storms that are rather slower and destructive, all classic signs of the climate change. Damage assessment that ongoing by preliminary estimates suggest over 3 billion in losses to infrastructure, agriculture, and private property. As sky begin to clear, tens of thousands of Texans knew particularly related to rebuilding homes, communities to sense safety amid the growing weather uncertainty." Torrential rain and severe thunderstorm battered much of Texas, caused widespread flooding, property damage, and mass evacuation in several countries. The multi-day weather event caused a slow-moving low-pressure system, causing chaos in the such as Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and parts of East Texas. Host country received more than 300 mm of rainfall in 36 hours, causing bayou drainage canals and flood control reservoirs to overflow. The Buffalo Bayou and the Brace Bayou overflowed flood residential area to force an emergency service to conduct more than 500 rescue operations in Greater Houston area. Governor Greg Abbott declared a state of emergency in more than 13 countries, mobilizing Texas National Guard and activating Emergency Operations Center. This is not just heavy rain, Abbott said in a new conference. This is live theater, including that require immediate action. In Austin, flash floods turned roads into rivers, blocking vehicles and forcing dozens of water rescue. Several low-lying crossings were washed away, and the schools in Travis County were closed to safety reasons. Meanwhile, in Dallas, floods warned heavy rain overflowing to drained, closing major interstate highway, including sections in I-35 and I-20. The National Weather Service issued a flood warning that most of central southwestern Texas, northern saturated soil, and additional rainfall could prolong to the crisis. Experts from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration warned that the climate trends to contributing for more frequent and intense rainfall for the southern United States. Residents along the North California coast are making at least minutes operation on Hurricane Helene. Stranger is not southwestern United States. The storm, now a Category 3 hurricane, continues to grand stretch with a sustainable winds of 120 km/h. Forecasts are warning of potentially devastating consequences as Helene moves within a few centimeters of the region. The National Hurricane Center was updated in devastation, warning that Helene could stretch further before the making rainfall. The storm is expected to bring dangerous winds, heavy rain, and significant storm surge that could lead to widespread flooding, especially in low-lying areas in the coast. Authorities have issued a hurricane warning for the large parts of the North California coast, urged residents to evacuate to take all necessary precautions. Evacuation orders have already been issued at residents in the outer coast, including popular tourist destinations such as Kiddens Island, Anchorage Island. Evacuation shelters have been stopped in the entire of island, and local authorities are working with the Red Crescent. All organizations provide safe housing to evacuate. Ferry service between the islands have been suspended, and the highway traffic were increasing dramatically, over residents rushing to move island before the conditions deteriorate. North Carolina governor has declared a state of emergency, mobilizing National Guard and other emergency personnel to help with the preparations and a potential recovery. This is a larger and dangerous storm, Cooper asked during press conference. Over 200,000 customers were left without electricity, and boiled water notices were issued across multiple cities. The National Weather Service reported rainfall total up to 16 inches in parts of southwestern Texas. Meteorologists blamed the extreme weather as solid frontal body ray combined by the warm, moisture rich air from the Gulf of Mexico. Climate experts from the University of Texas say punch prolonged an intense rainfall event to become a common, pointed to water, sea surface temperature, and shedding jet streams patterns. As floodwaters begin to recede, Texas and less comfortable implants clean up to growing reality. These storms are not longer rare, they are a new dangerous normal. A massive and slow-moving storm system has plunged much to Texas into crisis, bringing life-threatening floods, destructive winds, and mass power outage across dozens of countries. At least 14 people have been confirmed dead, over 3,000 displaced, more than 215,000 were left without electricity, and floodwaters continue to surge across the state. In Houston, one of the worst-hit areas, over 17 inches of rainfall within 84 hours. This week, a complex of change in the weather system swept across the United States, causing separate but related nozzles from the tropical Atlantic and the Pacific Northwest coast in the glacier of Alaska. Forecasts are tracking the rapidly intensified tropic system in the Atlantic and unusual August atmospheric rivers heading toward the Cascade Mountains and the dramatic glacier-like outbursts from the inundated part of the city of Juneau. Each of these events dramatically demonstrated how different elements of the climate system can combine exacerbating local risks. Atlantic Erin rapid intensification and wide-range submarine impact. Tropical storm Erin had rapidly intensified and moved across the warm waters of the Atlantic and forecast to become a hurricane later in the week.
It's like a snowstorm. Our vehicles are going to major hail damage.
Models showed the possibility of the rapid intensification, a major hurricane of Erin moving west-northwest, increasing uncertainty from the island communities in the East Caribbean, and a rapid likelihood of dangerous wave of the currents along the U.S. East Coast. Even the Storm Center reminded the offshore emergency management emphasizing the dangerous hurricane conditions. Large waves, coastal erosions, and life-threatening currents can occur before the far from any landfall. Follow increased advisory to survive probably through the arrival times. Gulf and southwestern flood risk outside in the eye, along with the tropical threat to separate area of concentrated moist to the West Gulf and the advised coastal area in the causing heavy slow-moving showers. Flooding remains the leading cause normally in tropical system when the weak tropical disbalance can cause flash flooding in urban corridor in low-lying coastal plains. Local medical service in the Personal Gulf and the southeast prioritize flood prevention, clearing drainage system, precautions pump, and updating evacuation notice for vulnerable communities. Alaska glacier breaching January 7 local nozzles. In January, a glacier-like outburst from the medical drainage system caused debris to flow down the river, overflowing temporarily proactive structures to flooding low-lying yards and at least a small road bridge. Rapid melting and sudden outflows from the glacier blocked basins and the increasing problem in the warming Alaska. Warming summers earlier showed melt in the increasing precipitation can fill ice-blocked lakes more quickly, increasing the livelihood of flash floods that occur without warming. City service and volunteers rushed into reinforced riverbanks and removed debris, while the residents of the most affected area were temporarily evacuated until authorities gave the all clear. The incident highlighted the need to regularly monitor the erosion basins to improve public warning system in the area. There were no other risk in the ice jams. Pacific Northwest unusual atmospheric river in August. The rare atmospheric river in August is forecast to bring prolonged wet weather to western Washington, Oregon, and southwestern British Columbia. Forecast agencies have warned to rainfall among the could equal the weak water precipitation in some mountains watershed in a matter of hours. The greatest two related nozzles, flash flood and risk levels, which are especially dangerous steep slopes, left the borough in the recent firefighters and debris flow to landslides in the high elevates. Although rain can help extinguish active fires, hydrologists causing the public in avoid low-lying canyons in the river crossing until the conditions waterway can be accepted. Connection and consequences by multiple events matter. Taken together, these events demonstrated how ocean warming changing to seasonal circulation and local changing flooding in Earth's surface. Can after the nature consequences of weather storms and the down energy from the warm sea, warm air can hold most moisture to bring heavier rainfall. He left it a landslide that faster rooftop. The practical implementation of straightforward communities need both implemented preparedness to especially northern and long-term investments in the resilience, updated evacuated routes, reinforced flood definition of rivers and coastal, improving monitoring the global basins and the small and the used planning in the area prone to flash flooding and landslides.